Welcome back to Daily Dose of Knowledge. If you're new here, subscribe and stay. Today we are talking about something you do every single day. Something that feels like connection. Something that looks like connection. Something that is quietly destroying your ability to actually connect. Social media. Not in the way you have heard before. Not the screen time lecture. Not the dopamine speech. We are going deeper than that today. We are talking about what social media is doing to the fundamental human capacity for genuine relationship. And the answer is more serious than most people want to sit with. Let's start with a distinction that changes everything. There is a difference between performing connection and experiencing it. Performing connection is broadcasting, sharing, presenting a version of yourself for an audience. Experiencing connection is being known, being seen. Being genuinely present with another person without an audience. For most of human history, these two things barely overlapped. You connected with people in private, face to face, without a record, without an audience, without metrics telling you how well it went. Social media collapsed that distinction completely. Now every interaction happens on a stage. Every relationship has an audience. And when connection becomes performance, something essential about it dies. Psychologist Erving Goffman developed the concept of impression management decades before social media existed. He argued that in social life, people naturally present different versions of themselves in different contexts. A front stage self, the version you present to the world. And a backstage self, the unfiltered version that exists in private. Healthy human connection requires access to the backstage, to the unpolished, unperformed, genuinely vulnerable self. Social media has almost entirely eliminated the backstage. Everything goes front stage. Everything gets curated. Everything gets filtered through the question, how will this look? And a life lived entirely front stage is an exhausting performance that produces the illusion of connection, while the actual experience of it quietly starves. Now let's talk about the psychology of the curated self. Because this is where the damage runs deepest. Every time you craft a post, selecting the best photograph, choosing the right words, timing the upload, you are not sharing yourself. You are constructing a character. A highlight reel version of your life designed to produce a specific impression in a specific audience. This is not vanity. It is a rational response to the incentive structure of the platform. Social media rewards the curated self with likes, comments, shares, and followers. It punishes the authentic self with silence, rejection, and the quiet horror of a post that nobody engages with, so people learn. They learn what version of themselves gets rewarded. And they produce that version with increasing precision. The problem is that over time the curated self and the actual self begin to diverge. You start to lose track of which one is real. You start to feel like the authentic version of yourself is somehow less interesting. Less worthy, less lovable than the version you perform online. Psychologists call this self-concept clarity erosion. The weakening of a clear and stable sense of who you actually are. Research consistently shows that heavy social media use is associated with lower self-concept clarity, higher identity confusion, and greater dependence on external validation to feel okay about yourself. You become addicted to the metrics. The likes become a proxy for lovability. The followers become a proxy for worth. And when the metrics drop, as they inevitably do, the psychological impact is disproportionate to what is actually happening. Because you have outsourced your sense of self to a number on a screen. Now let's talk about social comparison. Because this is the mechanism that causes the most measurable psychological damage. Psychologist Leon Festinger identified social comparison theory in 1954. Human beings naturally evaluate themselves by comparing themselves to others. This is a normal and unavoidable cognitive process, but the comparisons we make matter enormously. And social media has catastrophically distorted the comparison pool. Before social media, your comparison pool was your immediate environment, your neighborhood, your school, your workplace. These were realistic comparisons. Imperfect people living imperfect lives that you could see in full context. Social media replaced that comparison pool with the highlight reels of millions of people simultaneously. You are no longer comparing yourself to the people around you. You are comparing your ordinary Tuesday to the best moment of someone's year. Your real body to a carefully lit, filtered, posed photograph. Your real relationship to the version of a relationship someone chose to make public. Your real achievements to the curated achievements of thousands of people selected by an algorithm to show you exactly the content most likely to trigger your insecurities. This is not an accident. Platforms have discovered that social comparison drives engagement. Envy makes you scroll. Inadequacy makes you consume. The feeling that your life is somehow not enough keeps you on the platform looking for evidence that it is. You are being monetized through your own insecurity. Now let's talk about what this is doing to the quality of human relationships specifically. Research from the Oxford Internet Institute and multiple longitudinal studies shows a consistent pattern. As social media use increases, the number of close intimate relationships people report decreases. Not acquaintances, not followers, close relationships. The kind where you are genuinely known by another person. This makes intuitive sense when you understand the attention economy. Every hour spent performing for an audience online is an hour not spent in the kind of slow, unperformed, vulnerable interaction that builds genuine intimacy. Deep relationships are built in the backstage, in the unguarded moments, in the conversations that go nowhere and mean everything. They require time, presence, the willingness to be boring together. And the attention economy is specifically designed to make that kind of time feel wasteful. Why be bored together when you could both be consuming individually? Why sit in silence when your phone is offering you stimulation? The platform wins every time you choose it over the person in front of you. And it has been winning for over a decade now. Now let's talk about parasocial relationships. Because this is one of the most psychologically significant and least discussed consequences of social media culture. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time while the other party is completely unaware of their existence. These have always existed, parasocial relationships with celebrities, authors, musicians. But social media has industrialized them. Millions of people now have deep emotional investments in content creators, influencers, and online personalities who do not know they exist. They feel understood by them, comforted by them, less alone because of them. And this feels like connection. It produces many of the same neurological responses as genuine connection. But it is missing the single most psychologically essential ingredient of real relationship: reciprocity. In a real relationship, you are known. Your specific existence matters to another specific person. In a parasocial relationship, you are an audience member, interchangeable with millions of others. And the danger is not that these relationships feel bad. It is that they feel good enough. Good enough to reduce the motivation to seek the real thing. Good enough to fill the space where genuine intimacy should be. Good enough to let loneliness feel manageable without ever actually addressing it. Now let's talk about what can actually be done, because this is not a lecture without an exit. The first thing is the hardest: honest accounting. Look at your actual relationships, not your follower count, not your engagement rate. How many people in your life genuinely know you? Not the curated version, the actual version. How many conversations have you had in the last month that went somewhere real? If the honest answer is uncomfortable, that discomfort is information. Use it. The second thing is deliberate investment in backstage interaction. Time with people where there is no audience, no phones on the table, no content being made. Just two people being genuinely present with each other without a record of it. This feels less productive than it is. The brain has been trained to devalue unrecorded experience. But these are the interactions that build the relationships that will actually matter to you. The third thing is consuming social media as a tool, not an environment. A tool you pick up for a specific purpose and put down when the purpose is served, not an environment you live in. Not a place where your identity is maintained and your worth is measured. The distinction sounds small. The difference in psychological outcome is enormous. And the fourth thing is the most important. Protect your backstage. Protect the unperformed version of yourself. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every experience needs an audience. Some of the most valuable things in your life will be the things that never appeared online. The conversations nobody saw. The moments nobody photographed. The relationships that existed entirely off the record. Those are the ones that will still be with you when the platforms change and the metrics disappear. Because genuine human connection was never meant to have an audience. That is your daily dose of knowledge for today. Drop a comment and tell me, when did you last have a conversation that went somewhere genuinely real? Share this with someone who needs to put their phone down. Subscribe because we are just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.